worked in sport. I work for Harlequins Rugby League. If you can deal with Brian McDermott, the head coach there, you can deal with promoters in the music industry, trust me. I've worked for FMCG in the alcohol sector, for Budweiser, for WKD, amazing brand and consumer marketing kind of grounding for me. My favourite industry, I genuinely don't have one. I guess it's like choosing your favourite child. I don't have any children, so I don't know. Anyway, like I said, I can deliver on the basic. Let's see how the brilliant bit goes. Click it, they said. It worked. I'll click at Simon. At least you're all laughing, that helps. Right, I thought I'd start with a spot the difference. I shaved, so hopefully, you know, the difference you're looking at is the logo, not the beard. Here's Steve and his PowerBook G4. I have to look at my notes because I'm not a techie person. Simon recognised a PowerBook G4 straight away. The logo. Steve Jobs didn't care about the onlooker. They weren't a potential consumer to him. He was very user-centric. It was all about the user. The logo had to face the user. I'm always getting my laptop the wrong way around. The logo had to face the user. It was all about the user experience. But in 1999 to 2001, he had a bit of a conundrum. He looked in cafes. He looked on the big screen because suddenly cinema, product placement came in. And his logo was upside down, and his reputation was really important to him. So he had a bit of a dilemma. Do we go for the user, or do we go for observability? Do we go for brand? So he flipped it between 1999 and 2001. Sounds like an urban myth. I don't know the exact year. But the fact is he flipped it round, and you're left with you guys now seeing it. What happened? Brand awareness up, sales up. The law of observability. If you see someone else doing something, using something, going to something, you're more likely to do it yourself. It's quite an interesting lesson. Then we have an egg. Yesterday we had people launching top 5 singles. Today you've got an egg. It's not just any egg. It's a social superstar. It's the most liked photo on Instagram today. It's got over 50 million likes. It's just a fucking egg. What's the point in marketeers like me? Why on earth do paid-for search when an egg knocks Kylie Jenner off the top spot? Okay, it's a valid question. You know, I'm not going to say that all of us marketers are amazing, but actually if you strip away, I'm not talking about like de-shelling the egg, but if you have a look, there's some clever hashtags, granted, and one top tip I would give you, put hashtags in comments rather than just in the descriptor. But there's an emotional appeal here. There's a plea. Help us get to number 1. Rage Against the Machine style against the X Factor for the Christmas number 1. Knock Kylie Jenner off the top spot. Obviously that emotion resonated with the whole of Instagram because they've got over 50 million likes. It worked. Kylie Jenner is not number 1, the egg is. So what the hell has an apple and an egg got to do with 2019? To remind you about breakfast, you know. No, there's some themes that will come through. 2018, what did we have? We had GDPR coming into effect, algorithm changes, a lot of chat about algorithm, privacy scandals. Facebook, absolute nightmare with some data sharing issues. Twitter had to shut down a load of troll accounts. It wasn't pretty. So 2019 is a bit of a repair year. It's all about getting trust back from the consumer. It's about transparency. It's got to the point now in 2019 where millennials expect more transparency from brands than from politicians. That really sucks. In current climate, that really, really sucks. But it's an opportunity, right? So on Instagram, some brands, some influencers, they've turned to doing private accounts to be seemingly more intimate, also buck some algorithm trends. Facebook invested loads in groups last year. Groups really took off in a big way. And as a brand, I would say go for groups because you can send notifications, you can buck the algorithms, you can talk directly to consumers and it feels like it's one-on-one. You can get feedback. Groups are great. You can now, with the updates, post as a business page. Brilliant. You can update groups with stories and live videos. And talking of stories, what's the story? What's the story, Morning Glory? We have to do some song puns, apparently. I have to check my stat because there's over 970 million accounts posting daily on stories. That's across Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, Snapchat, but that's 900. It's busy. It's really busy. They can be a great addition to your content, but don't drop everything. Don't think all we have to do now, marketing-wise, is stories. The ads are cheaper in stories if you want to do paid for. I mean, look at the egg. They didn't pay for it. They're cheaper because there's less auction competition. At the end of 2018, stories overtook feed in terms of popularity and consumption. So I just experiment with them. They're fun. If you get them wrong, they're gone in 24 hours. You can't fuck up that badly with stories. But that's not a challenge. Don't try. But they're also done on the fly. And we talk about trust and transparency. They feel really intimate. If someone's produced it on the fly and you're like, yeah, I'm in their life, I'm seeing behind the scenes, I trust that person, I trust that brand, they're not overproduced and they're not expensive content to produce either. You just do it with a smartphone. It's really, really easy. And I'd say don't overproduce it. It looks really try hard and naff. They're very visual stories. It sounds really basic but brilliant. You've got a whole screen in vertical, and yet not everyone's using that whole space. And all of our content is landscape. Think about the poor film world. Everything they've produced is landscape. And most of us are like, oh, I can't afford to redo that. I don't really have any vertical content. I'll just post it and do that really cool resizing thing on Instagram. You don't use the whole screen. Once you've got someone's attention, use the whole screen. And there's some really clever ways that you can do this with layering or just a call to action right above and below. Don't have that blank space. It looks arty, but it's not great. I think the Beatles did this really well. They got the vinyl coming through. Everything's in square, but they actually use different real estate and the whole space. Then we come on to thumb-stopping creative. Hopefully. Here she is, scariest woman in the world, Claire Underwood. As people are scrolling, 3D imagery looks really cool. You can actually interact with it. I'm not a hand model, so I used a nice arrow here and with Def Leppard. But that's your thumb going over it. You imagine scrolling and then suddenly it looks really cool, I think. You can then put that in your feed. You can use it on story, but it's just a really cool way to grab someone's attention. Thumb-stopping creative. I love that term. It's so marketing. So, attention spans. Every single week, we scroll a greater height than Big Ben on Facebook. It's a lot of scrolling. We scroll a greater distance than we walk. That sucks. That really sucks. 1.7 seconds is the attention span you've got. It's less than a goldfish. It's good, isn't it? So how do you grab it? We've spoken about stories. Social currency. People love to brag. Bragability. Give them something. Give them the first announcement. Make them sound cool. Make them sound in the know. That's really good with community engagement as well. Make something a trigger. I'll give you an example. That's like an association. Mars Confectionery, their sales went up and they were like, we haven't really done anything that amazing. Oh no, NASA landed a rover on Mars and suddenly Mars was top of mind when people were shopping. Sundown Festival that I worked on, we decided to announce and go on sale at sundown rather than 9 a.m. like everyone else. It works. This stuff works because it's part of everyone's day. Emotion, the egg. If people care, they share. It sounds, again, really wanky, but it's really true. Practical value. Why are you sending me this email? What am I going to save? Am I going to save £2? What is the point? Make it relevant to people. Which also brings me on to email. So you've got all this amazing content. Be as strategic as possible. Ellie mentioned this funnel yesterday, and it's a really cool funnel to use. Don't serve buy, sell, when people have no idea what you're talking about. Take them on that journey. People like a story. So build awareness, build that engagement pool. Sounds like the pool at Shoreditch House, engagement pool. But get them engaging, make them aware, then respond. But don't leave them high and dry. We heard about dating apps yesterday. You heard of ghosting. I love you, I'm really keen, then you go on a date, you don't hear, ugh. Get people to buy a ticket, but then get in contact with them. And this is where sport, I think, is brilliant. You have members, they bought their season ticket, but you still get emails about the team updates, about any kind of news, what the head coach says. You can do that as a brand. Email is a particularly brilliant tactical thing to do. And I'm really keen about on and offline too. I know I've spoken a lot about online, but offline marketing is great. The Idols Art Expo, brand in hand, Apple, that was all about offline branding and the being public, being seen. I'd say on email, if it doesn't work, I've had many promoters, this is shit, we're not doing email anymore. We changed the subject line for Sundown. We sent an email that said, save 25% to 16 to 24-year-olds in Norfolk. Didn't really sell any tickets. Really awful marketing from me. I thought, I didn't get that. Oh, I'm not sure. Oh no, then we sent a subject bar saying save £2.50. They didn't work in percentages. They couldn't, I don't know whether they couldn't do the maths. That's awful to say. They didn't want to do the maths. So change it. A/B test. You've got nothing to lose, but it does work. So what's the success story? Is it all about sales? Is it all about money? We've heard that a lot over the last couple of days. And I'd say building a community is just as important as sales. I know you have to pay the bills, but there are other things that affect sales. You could have a brilliant marketing campaign. I worked at Budweiser when we did the What's Up campaign. I don't know if you remember it. Brand awareness, highest it's ever been. Sales, lowest. Maybe because it tasted of Nat's piss. But the point is that other things can affect it. Elton John for John Lewis might have been brilliant, but if M&S had used the egg or Kylie Jenner and said everything's £1, they wouldn't have worked. So you can do brilliant marketing, but there are other things that do affect the sales. So I'd be careful with the sales metric. And have you come up with stuff that stopped consumers? Have you listened to consumers? Have you read the comments? Have you learned from them? Have you got brand engagement? I'd say that's more successful. Just a really pithy, like, who do you think was more successful brand-wise? The egg? Apple? I mean, it's a good question. Who came first, the apple or the egg? No, thank you very much. That's the Fast 15.